Okay, coming on to talk college football, Major League Baseball, a little bit of NFL. He comes on every Monday and Friday. Our very good friend here on the show, and you can follow his newsletter over at the Mid-Major Matt newsletter at theprepqueen.com. It is Mid-Major Matt. Hi, Matt. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. One of the best times of year. We've got baseball and the NFL and college football and the Ryder Cup. I love watching the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, the Ryder Cup. You could have watched it this morning. USA, Peacock. My friends were watching all their head-to-head matchups. They were cashing bets at like 9:30 this morning. You gotta love golf. We'll start with college football. We got 3 games tonight. You put them out on the newsletter late last night, and then we've got a bunch of games tomorrow, including some massive games like Georgia-Bama or Penn State-Oregon. Starting with tonight, what did you see on the board that caught your eye?
So obviously in my neck of the woods, it is Florida State and Virginia. And it's a fascinating game tonight because Virginia has had a really good start to their season. Their offense is top 5 in total yards per game. And they've done very well against opponents that they're supposed to beat. But tonight they get Florida State. And my question is Virginia ready for prime time? I don't know yet if they are. I think their offense certainly is. I think their defense could struggle tonight. I've been going back and forth on the total, which has been going up a couple points so far. But my thing is you could have a higher scoring game and it not go over the 60.5. I think the score I've kind of been thinking is 28-24 Florida State. My other concern here with Florida State is if they don't play well early, Florida State next week is hosting Miami. The Canes are number 2 in the country. If Florida State wins tonight, College Game Day will probably be there. It is their Super Bowl. It is their opportunity besides the Alabama game to announce the return to the world that Florida State is back from its college football slumber last year. So I wonder what their motivation level is for a hyped up atmosphere in Charlottesville tonight. That's why I feel like it is very important for UVA to start fast. If UVA starts slow and Florida State scores early, I am very concerned about UVA chasing as opposed to being a front runner tonight. So I almost think tonight could be a live betting situation to see how the Cavaliers handle primetime the first couple drives.
We did have a question in the chat coming from, I think it was Craig Abel, who asked, it was Craig. Do you see any teams on upset watch in college football this weekend?
So coming out for tonight's newsletter for tomorrow, I'm going to start doing, and I did this last week, buy low, sell high. A couple of teams coming off of poor performances that people are talking down about that I think will do well, and a team that's coming off a really great game that probably won't do as well. I think my sell high for this week is going to be San Diego State. San Diego State last week shut out Cal in a huge game. They were an underdog in that game. They were tremendous. They did everything right. They played great defense. They played great offense. Now they're going to hit the road for a 3:30 start time on the East Coast against Northern Illinois, a MAC school. And San Diego State is a slight favorite in this game. Now, San Diego State is coached by Kent State's old coach, which obviously Northern Illinois is very familiar with. For those who don't know, Kent State tried to play the fastest tempo in America. They called it Flash Fast. Now it's Aztec Fast because it's in San Diego State. And Coach Hammock of Northern Illinois has gone up against this before. He knows how to kind of handle it a little bit. They're going to want to slow the game down. They're going to want to make it a tougher game in the trenches. I think Northern Illinois uglies this game up enough that I think San Diego State doesn't cover. Now, granted, look, it's a 2.5 point spread, but it's an upset. But I think that Northern Illinois is the look there coming up tomorrow as a home underdog against San Diego State.
Let's talk those big games on the slate tomorrow. Alabama, Georgia, Penn State, Oregon. You could throw in any others that are deemed these big national games amongst these ranked opponents. Where do you see maybe the sharp side? Maybe you have a lean on the game for any of those big spots.
So, these are the games that I pay attention to, certainly. I don't bet as much in them because,
my your name's not Big Major, Matt.
Exactly. I'm group of 5, Matt. I like the other games. I'm excited for Navy and Rice tomorrow. I mean, that's just a game that appeals to me. But on face value, Penn State during their whiteout games, which is basically their highly atmosphere. Everybody wears white shirts. They wave pom-poms, and it's a great atmosphere. I despise Penn State, so I hope they lose. But Oregon, it's going to be a tough atmosphere for Dante Moore to go into. And my question is, I think James Franklin makes a mistake every game. I think he's a terrible in-game coach. I think he's a great recruiter, which is why he's still at Penn State. But I think there's going to be a mistake made by James Franklin. The question is it on the smaller scale or is it on the larger scale? Penn State so far, I don't believe, has covered any of the games they've played. I think they're 0-3 against the spread. I don't remember what happened in the Villanova game, but Penn State is playing really well against bad teams, but Oregon's a completely different team here. So I hope Oregon goes in there and wins. Alabama and Georgia, they both have had 2 weeks to get ready for each other. Georgia, their defense has not been as good as it has been in the past, but can Ty Simpson, the quarterback for Alabama, go into the hostile atmosphere and play better against the defense that can get up for the situation? Can Georgia's quarterback, can Stockton go up against this Alabama team? To me, this is a game that's going to tell us more about each of them going forward than it is that night. And then, of course, Lane Kiffin's going up against Brian Kelly. And usually two of the louder coaches in college football would get the spotlight. But, of course, this game is third, certainly in the order. Ole Miss is a slight favorite. They're going to go the backup quarterback once again in this one. This is another one of these games that I need to learn about both of these teams because Ole Miss has played a lot of bad opponents. They went and they beat Kentucky. But other than that, I don't know enough about Ole Miss. This is going to tell us a little bit more because that each of them have a bunch of tough games coming up in the SEC schedule.
Let's go back to Georgia-Bama for a second. I showed this yesterday. Bettors are hammering Georgia this weekend against Alabama. This is a total pros versus Joes kind of game. I've got some friends who do like Alabama. They bet them at 3.5. They bet them again at 3. What do you say about these pros versus Joes?
Well, I mean, I think it's all about the key number. It's all about the 3. I mean, it's, you get the 2.5, you're going to take the favorite. You get the 3.5, you're going to take the underdog. And I think this is why, and I know this is somewhat of a, this is not necessarily what people want to hear. This is why you want to bet a game live. I mean, both of these quarterbacks are going into a hostile atmosphere. And look, even Stockton as the home quarterback, this is still a huge atmosphere for him to kind of go through. So I want to see who's ready for the situation. We know the defense is probably, maybe you look at a first quarter under in this situation, maybe a slow start from both teams. But to me, I don't see a real advantage in either direction other than Georgia's home for this game.